Well, hello, beautiful people. Angela Renee. I am super excited to be here because I told you guys yesterday I started reading The Power of Now finally by Eckhart Tolle, right? And I wasn't just reading it, but I was also listening to the audio. So I have listened to the full audiobook, but I also have been reading it. So I'm going to literally, there's 10 chapters. So I'm going to, for the next 10 days, be sharing something from each of those chapters. What I'm going to do is like my own summary, not to surmise the whole chapter, but just my own thoughts. What hit me? What stuck with me out of each chapter is what I'm going to share, because the book is so powerful to help you move forward in your own personal journey with being your best self, right? Being really who you were created to be. So it's so powerful in that. And you guys know I talk to you guys a lot about, just living this life and walking this life out the way that the Most High would have for us to live. And I found that this book is really powerful. So let's get into it. The chapter 1 is called "You Are Not Your Mind," and I love that. I have talked a lot about thoughts or things, and how you shape what you think, and you shape what you think, and you say the right things, and you have a beautiful life, right? But I had not really done a lot of work on the fact that you are not your mind. So in reading this chapter, some things really hit me, and I said I want to share that with everyone. The first thing that he started out with was enlightenment. And he talks about enlightenment. And all this comes to people asking questions and then him answering and then expounding upon it. So the enlightenment part, he said that Buddha calls enlightenment the end of suffering. And he said, but Buddha talks about enlightenment being the end of suffering, but doesn't talk about how you end suffering, right? But I feel like Jesus talks about how to end suffering. But the way that we get it in the Bible and the things that have been left out from the Bible don't really focus on our relationship with the Most High. But really the end of the suffering is oneness with God, right? And there are scriptures that point to that, but they don't really emphasize it. It's more about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, rather than really focusing on relationship with Most High God. That's to me what is emphasized in the Bible, especially a lot of Bible teachers. There are some that are higher elevated, higher level of consciousness that do teach that, but I'm just talking about in general, right? So we miss that. We miss the beauty of understanding that all this life is about is fulfilling our purpose and having beautiful relationship with God so he can utilize us as a vessel, and it says things, but it doesn't really get into the relationship of that, right? So the other thing that he said later on was that enlightenment was rising above thought. And I thought that was important. So that is what I wanted to share with you on that. And then I said, if enlightenment is the end of suffering, what are we suffering from? That was my question. And then here's my response to that. And that this is not an external suffering, people. We are suffering from overthinking, from the power we have given to our own minds. And obviously our minds are important. God wouldn't have given us anything we didn't need, but we have given our mind power that it should not have because we don't have the oneness with God. We don't have that relationship. And God says to us clearly to come to him as a little child. And why he didn't just say a child, he said a little child. Why? Because a little child has not given the mind that type of power. Not yet, right? So that's why you have to come to him as a little child. So that's one thing. And then my other thought with this was, okay, you know who understands the power of your mind? The 1%. The 1% that wants that's greedy, that wants to be in control, that wants to make sure that the media is drenched with negativity and things that you need to hear that will keep you from understanding the power of you. That's very important that you understand. If you don't believe in your mind, the 1% that wants to remain in control, right? That they believe in your mind. And you need to understand your mind. And so I think this chapter, "You Are Not Your Mind," is extremely important because that's what he does talk about. So let's get into it a little bit more. He said, thinking has become a disease. If you are off balanced, it's a disease, and our thinking is off balance. Often we are obsessed with our thoughts, right? And there's a need to shift our mind. And in the East, they call it no mind, right? And the answer is to become the observer of the mind. I don't know if you listened to a video that I did in December, one of them, but I talked about viewing life as if you are behind the camera lens and you see yourself in this film or whatever, right? And you're not judging you or judging the other players, the other characters, but you are observant, right? And you are discerning so that you can see things as they are. Get the emotion out, right? Which we're getting ready to get into. But see things as the observer and make decisions based on the discernment that you can get from seeing things as the observer. So 80 to 90% he talks about in the book of our thoughts are repetitive or useless. And I find that to be true with the people that I work with as a counselor, as a social worker, as an educator. In fact, I used to say to my students, y'all don't know how to be quiet because the thoughts in your head are so disturbing that you can't be still and be alone with those thoughts. I boldly said that because I understand. And when I told them to stop and just be still, they had to deal with that. And most of the time we couldn't get past 10 seconds or 5 seconds, to be honest. Anyway, so a couple of other definitions you need to know are ego, which is the false self, right? It's the labels. It's all the things that we put on ourselves, all the hats we wear, the labels that have been given to us, brother, sister, father, mother, daughter, son, a lawyer, teacher, clerk, whatever, right? It's all the labels that we wear. Homeless person, mentally ill. It's all those labels that we have taken on, and that we now in our mind, we've given our mind so much power that we identify with. That's the ego. And then emotions. The definition that I wrote down here is this one: complex mental and physical states that can include feelings, thoughts, and behavioral responses, right? So those are our emotions. And the emotions, one thing that he revealed in here that I hadn't heard before in the book was that emotions, a Latin root word, right, means like disturb. So emotions are actually a disturbance. And that's why we are so challenged with our emotions, right? And then somebody talks about, well, aren't there positive emotions? Well, there are. But the problem with getting caught up in emotions, right, is if they're emotions, then there's an opposite. So even if you're happy, the next moment or a little bit later, you're sad or you're mad, right? If you're giving the emotion the power, the thoughts of these emotions, right? Because the thoughts are moved by your emotions. Then if you're giving them the power and you're not the observer that's looking in, finding what he calls those still moments, right? The moments between the thoughts, those still moments that will connect you to your inner self, to your being, right? If you're not looking at that, right? And if you're not aware of that, then you are sick. That's where disease comes from. Our thoughts, our unhealthy thoughts, bring about physical disease, people. It's real. And so we have to be mindful. We have to, with no mind, we have to be mindful of our mind. Right? So again, remember to only observe and to not analyze, and then to feel. That feeling is powerful. One thing he says before I get off of this, I like what he says. He says, you need to ask yourself, what is going on inside of me right now? And that's when you attach to whatever emotion, or not attach, that's when you listen to whatever emotions, you give them credence because they're real, right? It's how you feel. But You only observe. You don't analyze and you feel. And then if there's no emotion, this is where he directs us to go deeper. Go deeper. Go into that inner energy field, right? And that'll get you closer, like you'll be at the gateway of being if we do that. So a good thing that he said that I like, that I want to end this whole little time with, is there's people ask about like emotions and good emotions. And he talked about love, joy, and peace, which are states of being, right? They're in that. They said they have no opposites, like happy, mad, or like, dislike, or like, or hate, right? So those type of things. But love, joy, and peace are a part of being. So most people use love and they don't really know what love is, or joy, and they're really meaning they're happy for the moment. They don't have a state of being. In peace, and they don't understand what peace is. They're just content for the moment, right? But love, joy, and peace are states and parts of your being. So you want to strive for love. I love you. And you want to strive for joy, and you want to strive for peace, right? You want to reach those. And that comes through a higher level of consciousness. It comes through doing the work with yourself to know thyself, right? To know thyself, but yet not to obsess over your thoughts. Peace and love, love and light. That's a lot in a little bit of time. All right. I hope you stayed for the whole video, because if you did, you're truly blessed. Peace and love, love and light.